At 5:19 a.m. local time, the lights inside the Combat Information Center dim automatically as the sonar display tightens and sharpens. No alarm sounds, no announcement is made, just a subtle shift in posture that everyone in the room recognizes instantly. A single contact resolves beneath the thermal layer, clean, almost unnaturally clean. No biological clutter, no merchant noise, no random cavitation. Just a steady acoustic return, moving with deliberate intent, holding depth and holding speed, the kind of contact that does not wander because it does not need to. The kind that knows exactly where it is. Above on the bridge, the sea looks harmless. Blue water, clear horizon. Flight operations are paused, not canceled. Paused. The carrier maintains course and speed, a 100,000-ton constant cutting forward as if nothing has changed. But something has. Down in CIC, the sonar supervisor leans closer to the display. He does not raise his voice. He does not have to. He calls out the bearing, then the depth estimate. Another watchstander repeats it back. Every word is logged. Every second is recorded. Below the thermal layer, the contact is using the ocean itself as camouflage, a choice that immediately narrows the possibilities. Passive sonar confirms it. Low frequency, disciplined, consistent, not sprinting, not hiding, just present, close enough to matter, far enough to be intentional. Condition 3 is set, not shouted, not dramatized, but executed as muscle memory. Watertight integrity is checked. Key stations are manned. Weapons remain cold. No sudden movements. No visible escalation. This is not reaction. This is control. Then the contact adjusts depth just slightly, a controlled climb, followed by a return, a probe. The sonar team marks it instantly. That maneuver is not accidental. It is a question asked underwater. Are you listening? The answer is already flowing silently through data streams across multiple consoles. On the surface, the escorts hold formation. Destroyers on the outer screen widen their spacing by a fraction invisible to anyone without trained eyes. To those who know what they are looking at, it is a curtain being drawn. The carrier does not turn. In CIC, acoustic analysts begin matching blade rates against stored libraries. The numbers align too well to dismiss. This is not an aging diesel boat drifting into traffic. This is a modern attack submarine operating with confidence. The contact speed does not change. No evasion. No noise discipline shift. That detail matters most. A submarine that wants to remain unseen does not behave like this. This one wants to be noticed. Another depth change follows sharper this time. The thermal layer bends the return, but not enough. The contact holds the same bearing relative to the carrier's track. Not crossing, not falling back, shadowing. Closest point of approach is calculated, then recalculated. The numbers tighten. No one says the word threat. No one needs to. In Titan, Navy doctrine intent is not declared by flags or radio calls. It is declared by geometry. And the geometry is starting to press in. The request moves up the chain in seconds, quiet and procedural. Approval comes back just as fast. One ping. The sound rolls out into the deep, a controlled pulse cutting cleanly through the thermal layer. The return is immediate and unmistakable. Steel answers steel. The contact does not run. It does not dive hard. It holds, then makes a small course correction. Another test. Another question. The analysts exchange brief glances. That correction says more than silence ever could. This is a submarine with a skilled crew, confident in its positioning, confident in its escape routes, confident enough to challenge a carrier strike group head-on. The bearing is called again. The number is lower now, closer. On the bridge, the captain stands motionless, hands resting lightly on the rail. He does not look at the sea. He looks at the repeater displays. When he speaks, his voice is calm, unhurried. Maintain course. Log everything. That is the order. No radio traffic is initiated. No warnings are broadcast. There is no need. Whoever is below already knows they have been found, and they are choosing to remain submerged. The contact eases back under the thermal layer, reducing its acoustic profile just enough to blur, but not disappear. A controlled fade, not an escape. In the CIC, the plot remains solid. This is not ending. It is evolving. The contact stabilizes again beneath the layer almost deliberately, not drifting, not hiding behind merchant noise, just holding a parallel track, matching the carrier's movement with quiet precision. Now the submarine is no longer testing detection. It already has that answer. It is measuring response time course, stability, reaction geometry. The unspoken language of professional navies. A brief, controlled increase in speed follows then a return to baseline. The sonar team catches it instantly. That burst is not about closing distance. It is calibration. The response comes without drama. Destroyers on the outer screen shift again, widening the net by another increment. No sharp turns, no aggressive angles. Just mathematics applied across miles of ocean. The carrier remains the anchor point. Everything else adjusts around it. This is not panic. This is doctrine. The submarine's next move is telling. Instead of crossing the carrier's wake, it slides laterally, maintaining constant bearing. The geometry is unmistakable. It is not trying to pass unseen. It is choosing a position of observation, a position of challenge. As filters tighten, the acoustic signature sharpens. Blade count, shaft harmonics, machinery cadence. The data aligns cleanly with known profiles. Confidence in the library match rises steadily. A Russian attack submarine. The confirmation is logged, not announced. Nothing changes on the bridge. The ocean does not care about flags. It cares about physics. And physics says the submarine is now close enough to matter. Another depth change is called. A shallow climb toward the upper edge of the thermal layer, then a slip back down. An old trick meant to complicate tracking. It does not work. The contact remains firm, now held by multiple sensors. Towed arrays from the screen are feeding the shared picture. This is no longer one ship's problem. It is the strike group's reality. The submarine settles again. Speed constant. Depth steady. That pause is deliberate. A statement without words. We are here. We are not leaving. Closest point of approach tightens again. Still within safety margins. Still below the threshold that demands a visible response. But close. Too close for coincidence. On the bridge, the captain watches the numbers tick down. He orders no course change. Turning would admit pressure. Instead, he lets geometry speak. The carrier continues forward, unbothered. Below the surface, the submarine makes its boldest move. A short, active sonar emission. Brief, almost polite. Completely unmistakable. A tap on the glass from beneath the sea. No submarine sends that signal by accident. The CIC freezes for a fraction of a second, not in confusion, but in recognition. Ambiguity collapses. This is a challenge. The response is immediate and controlled. No return ping, no mirrored aggression. The signal is captured in full. Frequency, power, timing, everything is logged. In modern naval warfare, information is leverage, and the submarine has just given some of it away. The contact slips back into passive silence, but the picture remains. Nothing has been resolved. The lines have simply been drawn. The moment has already slipped away. Whatever ambiguity once protected the submarine is gone. The veil thinner now, its earlier confidence costing it something real. The destroyers adjust again, not dramatically, just enough to matter, subtly tightening their arcs. No weapons are manned, no aircraft are launched. And yet the net is no longer theoretical. It is forming. The submarine alters course a few degrees off its previous track, a small correction that speaks louder than any radio call. The change is cautious, almost tentative, a clear reassessment. Closest point of approach calculations stabilize. The strike group holds steady. This is the point where intentions stop being abstract and start becoming visible. The submarine could disengage here, slip into deeper water, let the encounter dissolve without consequences. It chooses not to. Instead, it maintains the shadow matching the carrier's path, staying just close enough to keep the tension alive, close enough to be noticed, not close enough to force an immediate reaction. That balance is deliberate. Inside the Combat Information Center, one analyst says it quietly, almost to himself. They are not hunting. They are posturing. And he is right. This is not about firing weapons, not yet. This is about presence, about signaling capability, without crossing the line that would trigger a response nobody wants, but everyone is prepared for. Above the surface, nothing appears different. The horizon is flat. The sky is clear. Sailors move through their routines with practiced calm. Below the surface, however, two naval doctrines are pressing against each other in silence, and the space between them is shrinking. The posture shifts without ceremony. A decision is made quietly and passed across the watch floor in clipped phrases and nods. The submarine has lingered long enough. Observation has turned into persistence, and persistence invites control. The order moves forward. Launch the helo. On the flight deck, the MH-60R Seahawk spins up rotors, cutting clean arcs through the air. There are no alarms and no rush. This is not a scramble. This is a planned transition from passive awareness to active dominance executed exactly as doctrine intends. As the helicopter lifts off, the carrier does not slow, and the escorts do not break formation. The ocean remains indifferent. Only the geometry changes. Below the surface, the submarine holds its course beneath the thermal layer. It does not accelerate away, and it does not dive deeper. That choice matters. The Seahawk clears the deck banks low and heads toward the datum point calculated from converging sonar lines, a solution built quietly from multiple ships and sensors acting as one. Inside the aircraft, the crew works in practiced silence. Sonobuoy racks are armed frequencies, pre-selected patterns already drawn. This is not guesswork. This is choreography. The first buoys splash into the water, their small parachutes collapsing as they settle into position. One by one, they begin to listen. The ocean fills with overlapping cones of sound, a net woven from mathematics training and long habit. The submarine reacts with a sharp course change and a shallow dive trying to slip between the gaps before the net fully closes. The sonar plots catch it immediately. The maneuver is clean, professional, and too late. More buoys hit the water. The thermal layer is no longer a shield. It has become a reference point. The submarine's acoustic signature sharpens as the environment grows crowded with sensors. Every turn and every adjustment adds detail to the picture. On the destroyers forming the outer screen, towed arrays swing wider, feeding additional data into the shared display. The strike group's awareness deepens layers stacking on layers, and the dynamic quietly flips. The hunter is now the hunted. The submarine makes another calculated move, a brief acceleration, followed by a controlled reduction in speed, attempting to manufacture ambiguity. and force a false track to see if the net will tear under pressure. It does not. The Seahawk circles with disciplined spacing, never flying directly overhead, maintaining pressure without provocation. Another sonobuoy pings and the return is crisp. In the Combat Information Center, the contact is now marked with confidence, measured not in probability, but in certainty. Depth, speed, heading, all resolved. The submarine tries to regain the thermal layer, climbing just enough to blur its outline. The attempt fails. The layer is saturated with sensors. There is nowhere left to hide inside it. For the first time since the encounter began, the submarine's behavior changes in a fundamental way. It slows deliberately, not drifting, but reducing speed in a manner that signals reassessment. Analysts note the shift immediately. A boat that was testing boundaries is now calculating exits. The confidence has not vanished, but it has narrowed. The Seahawk crew receives updated vectors and adjusts its orbit. The helicopter is no longer searching. It is holding. Below, the submarine emits a brief burst of machinery noise, minor, but telling a course correction made under pressure. Another data point is added to the growing library. No weapons are armed. None are needed. At this stage, control itself is the message, and the message has been delivered. No warnings are issued. The message is delivered entirely through control of space. You are seen. You are tracked. You are boxed. The submarine makes one last attempt to slip the net, angling toward deeper water and away from the carrier's projected path. The destroyers respond without drama, tightening their spacing, just enough arcs overlapping with surgical precision, closing the option without advertising that it was ever offered. This is restraint sharpened into dominance. Minutes pass and the contact remains solid. Inside the Combat Information Center, a quiet realization settles in. The encounter has crossed a threshold. What began as a challenge has turned into exposure. The submarine has revealed too much: its handling habits, its reaction, timing, its preferred depths. The small tells that professionals spend careers trying to hide. It has given away information it will never get back. Above the surface, sailors still see only calm seas. The carrier continues forward, steady and indifferent. Below, the submarine begins to edge away slowly, at first testing the boundaries. The net does not pursue. It simply exists, denying space by its presence alone. The message is unmistakable. You may leave, but you will leave on our terms. For the first time since it appeared beneath the thermal layer, the submarine starts to comply. It does not flee. It hesitates. Its speed drops another fraction, almost imperceptible, but enough to register across the strike group's sensors. That pause is not mechanical. It is human. A crew reassessing the board, counting exits that are no longer there. In the Combat Information Center, no one celebrates. No one raises their voice. This is not a moment for emotion. This is pressure applied with discipline. The MH-60R Seahawk maintains its orbit steady and deliberately unprovocative. Sonobuoys remain hot, their coverage overlapping in clean, deliberate geometry. The destroyers adjust by degrees rather than miles, sealing space without ever announcing intent. The submarine attempts a shallow, controlled depth change, probing for a thinner seam in the net. The move is tracked immediately. The thermal layer offers no relief now. It has been mapped, saturated, stripped of its advantage. Every option is closing. For the first time, the submarine turns away from the carrier's projected path. Not a break and not a sprint, just a careful divergence angled enough to suggest withdrawal without admitting it outright. In naval terms, that distinction matters. The plot updates quietly. The bearing shift is logged. Closest point of approach begins to widen slowly, and reluctantly still close enough to feel still close enough to remind. On the bridge, the captain watches in silence. He does not order pursuit. He does not need to. The carrier remains the immovable reference point, and the ocean rearranges itself around it. Below the surface, the submarine makes one final attempt to reassert control. A brief increase in speed, a minor course correction, a last test to see if the net will loosen. It does not. The Seahawk's sensors tighten the picture. Towed arrays hold firm. The strike group's awareness is now complete, layered redundant, with no single point of failure left to exploit. The submarine's acoustic signature shifts again, this time not as a tactic, but as a concession. Machinery noise settles into a quieter, more conservative profile. The aggressive edge is gone. This is no longer a challenge. It is damage control. Analysts recognize the change instantly. The boat is prioritizing discretion over presence now. The posture has flipped. Where it once wanted to be seen, it now wants to leave unseen. That option is no longer available. The submarine turns further away, committing to a withdrawal vector that carries it out of the carrier's protective bubble. The movement is measured professional and unmistakable. The challenge is over, not because words were exchanged, but because space was controlled. And in the end, that control spoke louder than anything transmitted over the radio. It is disengaging. The strike group does not pursue, and that decision is deliberate. Chasing would escalate the situation, while holding position asserts dominance without provocation. This is not hesitation, it is doctrine. As distance opens, the sonar picture begins to soften, not disappearing, but thinning the submarine's signature, fading mile by mile, as uncertainty slowly seeps back into the ocean. The damage, however, is already done. Everything that mattered has been captured in full. Blade rates, reaction timing, preferred depths, course change behavior under pressure. A complete behavioral fingerprint assembled in silence without a single weapon coming off safe. In modern naval warfare, this is not a draw. This is a decisive outcome. The MH-60R Seahawk receives the order to widen its orbit, then to begin recovery. Sonobuoys remain in the water, listening, confirming the withdrawal rather than questioning it. The destroyers relax their arcs by small controlled increments, reopening space without surrendering control. The carrier never alters course. Below the surface, the submarine continues its retreat path steady, now intentions unmistakable. It does not look back, not because it cannot, but because it no longer needs to. The encounter ends without explosions or warnings, but with a lesson delivered through geometry, patience, and restraint. In the Combat Information Center, the final entries are logged: time of disengagement, last confirmed bearing, estimated exit corridor, all recorded with clinical precision. The watch drops to a lower intensity, but focus does not fade. Above deck, sailors notice nothing. The sea remains calm, the horizon unchanged. The carrier's wake stretches clean and white behind it, indifferent to what just unfolded below. Yet beneath the surface, a boundary has been enforced, and someone has learned with absolute clarity what it means to challenge a carrier strike group and lose without a single shot being fired. The ocean returns to quiet gradually, not all at once as layers of sound peel away, and the acoustic picture loosens its grip. The submarine's signature thins further, stretched by distance and depth, until it becomes just another possibility among many. In the Combat Information Center, the plot remains open. No one rushes to clear it. Withdrawal does not mean absence. It means patience, and at sea, patience is how advantage is preserved. Sonobuoys continue to listen, each report arriving with diminishing clarity, confirming what geometry already dictates. The submarine is moving away along a clean exit corridor, no erratic maneuvers, no sudden acceleration, just a controlled retreat by a professional crew that understands when the board is no longer theirs. The Seahawk completes its final circuit and turns back toward the carrier. Its sensors are quiet, now recording rather than searching. The mission has shifted from containment to confirmation. On the destroyer's towed arrays are eased inward by fractions, their long cables slicing silently through the water as the net relaxes without collapsing. This is how dominance ends an encounter, not by snapping shut, but by holding firm until pressure is no longer required. The carrier continues along the same track it held from the moment the first contact appeared beneath the thermal layer. That detail matters. In naval operations, consistency is a signal of confidence. Changing course would have implied reaction, and there was none. In the Combat Information Center, analysts begin the slow, methodical work that follows every quiet confrontation. Data is reviewed. Timelines are aligned. Acoustic signatures are cross-checked against existing libraries. What was once an abstract profile now has context: how it moves, how it reacts, how it behaves when boxed. Titan Navy does not need noise to make a point. Control of space is enough. This information does not make headlines. It shapes futures. The watch team notes the final fade as the contact slips beyond reliable detection, absorbed into the depth and noise of the open ocean. The plot is annotated, not erased. The sea remembers even when the screen goes blank. Condition levels ease not fully, just enough. On the bridge, the captain nods once as final confirmation comes in. No speech, no acknowledgement beyond the log entry. The strike group remains what it has always been, a moving system designed to control space, not announce it. Below decks, sailors return to routine. Maintenance checks resume. Watches rotate. The day continues. For most of the crew, nothing remarkable has happened. That too is by design. What unfolded beneath the surface was not meant to be felt. It was meant to be understood by only one audience, the one that tested the boundary. Somewhere below the thermal layer, far from the carrier, now a submarine crew adjusts its own watches. Logs are written, assessments made, lessons absorbed without ceremony. They know what occurred. They know how close they were allowed to come, and why they were permitted to leave. This was not restraint born of weakness. It was restraint chosen because it was sufficient. In modern naval warfare, victory is not always measured in damage inflicted. More often, it is measured in options denied, information gained, and intent clarified without escalation. The encounter ends with no wreckage, no radio statements, no visible trace. But the balance has shifted. The carrier strike group moves on its wake, stretching long and white across the sea. Above the surface, the horizon remains empty. Below it, the ocean resumes its layered silence, carrying secrets and memory alike. And within that silence, a clear understanding lingers. The challenge was acknowledged. The line was held. And dominance was asserted not through force, but through control.